All right, well, welcome everybody to what is my very first mayor and city manager press conference since I took office a whole 3 weeks ago. I think this is day 21, but who's counting? So I am glad to be here, and I'm glad everyone else is here, not just in the room, but all of those who may watch this online. We are going to change the format a little bit, not for any great reasons, except I'm a different mayor and I want to do things a little differently. I will say these were originally started by Mayor Michelle de la Isla, and I think they were a great idea, and they were carried through by Mayor Padilla, so I'm glad to continue these. I think they're important to help answer questions from the media and everyone else out here and get some information across. The new format's pretty simple. You're going to see me, the mayor, stand up here and talk about the things I want to talk about. Then you're going to see the city manager get up here and talk about the things the city manager would like to talk about. And then at that point, we are happy together to answer whatever questions you have, either about what we've discussed or anything we haven't discussed that you want us to talk about. We're then every time going to have somebody from our staff, one of our departments, come up here and talk for just a few minutes about something we want to put on your radar that the city is doing. And then we're going to end every press conference with somebody from the community, an individual or organization that we know is important and doing work out there that we also want to make sure people are aware of and just highlight a little bit. I think it's very important that we remind people that we're part of the city and that there's a lot of good people out there doing a lot of wonderful things. So that will be this new format. We'll see how it works. I think it'll work great, and if not, we can always change it because we have that flexibility and ability to do that. So again, thank you for everybody for being here. So today I want to talk about a few things. The first is, as I mentioned, this is my day 21. I get asked a lot of the questions as I go out in the community about what do you do your first 100 days? There's that magic first 100 days. And what I tell folks is I could certainly come out of the gate and announce a bunch of things, and I've got a lot of things I'd like to get done, but I'm spending my first 100 days making sure that the next 1,300 days after that are actually successful. Because I think if you come out of the chute really fast the first 100, you still gotta serve the full 4 years and make sure that you're serving the community in the best ways that you can. So what that's looked like for me, especially in these first couple weeks, is lots of meeting with staff, department heads, but also just other departments. I've literally just walked around a few of them, said hi to employees, introduced myself, told them my door is always open, and asked for any feedback they have today or in the future about their departments. I've talked with department heads about what are your concerns, what are your wins, what are the things we're doing well, but more importantly, what can I do as the mayor and from this office to assist you to make it easier for you to do your job and serve the city of Topeka. So that's been very important, and it's been really great to hear all that feedback and get some information that I've needed from staff across the various departments. I've also made that offer to all my friends on the council. I think it's important, too, to meet with them initially and just have that same conversation. What are their priorities as council individuals for the next year and beyond? And what can I do as mayor now to assist them with issues in their district? Because I think, as I've said, as I ran for office and I've taken this office, I was elected by everybody. I represent the whole city, and so I want to make sure that I am in tune with each district also and their representatives and serving the needs of those districts. I'm also looking at the budget. I'll talk about that here in a minute as we have our first budget meeting this evening. And then I'm also having lots of community meetings. I'm going to events, but I'm also meeting with individuals, organizations throughout the community. I have said, and I still hold to it, that my priorities are in part and mostly dictated by the priorities of the community. You only know what the community wants if you actually spend time in the community, meet with organizations and individuals in the community, and bring that feedback back to City Hall. So as I look at what some of those priorities will be and what my 1,300 days after the first 100 look like, I want to very much continue to make sure that public input is part of that process. As I mentioned, Tuesday night, that would be tonight, I guess, we have a budget meeting. I remind everybody as we do these meetings that this is a long process, right? We will not approve a budget until the end of September. They're due to the state by October. So this is step one of what will be many, many steps. Tonight, primarily, we will hear from staff and the city manager as they will present to us some of their ideas, plans, the issues we have with the budget as we have to work on that. And we will sort of take that in as a governing body and then have a little bit of time to digest that over the next month and figure out the direction that we want to go. I encourage everybody to participate in this process. Watch these meetings. If you have thoughts about how we can prioritize our budget or what's important to you, take a look at it. Our 2026 budget is online. In fact, we've won awards for how accessible our budget is on the internet. I encourage people to go look at it and see what they like in it and see what they don't like in it and let us know. Tell us as council people and as the mayor, this is where I think you should make some changes, and we will take that in. Through the years as a council person, I will tell you there are a number of initiatives that I brought forward that are in the budget that came to me from citizens in the community who said, why don't you do it this way? Or have you ever thought of this? And I said, that's a great idea. Took it to council, and it's actually now part of how we do things here at the city. So we will listen. I will listen for sure. And so I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to feedback. But just remember, tonight is step one of a long process. You're probably going to hear some proposals and suggestions and information that some of us are going to think are great, and some of us are going to say, oof, that's tough. But remember, it's just the start of the conversation. So that's the focus of tonight's meeting, and we'll see how that goes as we start the process. We also have now closed the applications for the District 8 vacancy. So if you wanted to apply, too bad. The deadline was 5 o'clock last night. We had 3 applications turned in. I am sure if you ask, I'm pretty sure those may be available at some point. I think they're public record. Dan can probably help you with that. So we had 3 individuals apply. We will next week interview them. And then I don't think we have decided yet, to be quite honest. I think the last time we did this, I believe we voted that evening to put that person in place, but we could wait a week if we so chose. My guess is we'll do it that evening, but I won't make that decision on behalf of the rest of the council just yet. But we will do the interview process. We will interview them all one at a time in person. Every council member will get 1 question. We'll go around the days, we'll ask our questions, we'll see how they respond, and then at the end of the day, whoever gets 6 votes will fill the District 8 term that I had for the next 2 years of what's left on that vacancy. A couple small things here. I do want to thank Senator Jerry Moran. One of the things we have been working on for many years now is to get the Army Corps of Engineers to do an important study as we look at flood mitigation for the Shunganunga Creek. But that's a costly, and you got to get the ball moving forward. Senator Moran was able to actually get $500,000 put into a appropriations bill that is going to be signed by the president. And so that money will go directly towards Topeka on getting some flood mitigation process started for the Shunganunga Creek. So thank you to him for that, because we have not been able to do that without, 1, the money, but 2, without the actual participation of the Corps of Army Engineers. So I just want to thank him for that effort. You will see me beginning next month at some point start to roll out. So pay attention. I'll do it probably a little bit before, but then at this next press conference, a couple things that I promised to do when I was elected mayor. The first is I promised to put together some community groups that report directly to the mayor. If you want to call them a task force, great. If you want to call them community, I haven't given them names yet, but we'll look at that. That help us look at some of our operational pieces, some of our community pieces, some of how the mayor can better work within the community. I will start putting those together over the next month and letting people know that those are now open for any individuals who'd like to participate in those. So look out for that, because I want people to be very aware of them and have an opportunity to serve. My goal is to make sure that those groups are filled with people who have not had a voice in some of these processes before. I want to bring new voices to the table and make sure that they have input into giving me feedback as mayor as we move forward. The second thing is, I, as a council person for my 6 years, always did open office hours. And I told people I'm going to continue some version of that because I think that's very important. I also think that if I just do open office hours as the mayor the way I used to do them, it could get a little chaotic. More people will come when you're mayor than they did as sometimes it's just your district and the council. What you're going to see, and I will roll these out a little more formal over the next month, is ways I can continue that process of hearing from people without the chaos. So there's a couple things I will probably do. First is I will probably do what I haven't come up with a fancy name yet, but I'll figure it out. Someday, every month or every 6 weeks, where you can come talk to the mayor. Everyone can get a 15-minute slot. You can come to City Hall. We'll sit down, and I can hear whatever it is you want me to hear throughout that day. We'll fill the slots. People can come talk to the mayor. I will probably also do some sort of online Q&A moving forward. Some other mayors across the country and the region do this. It's helpful. That way you don't have to get out of your house. You can get on your keyboard, and you can ask questions, and I can directly communicate with you. So we will do that, whether it's through Facebook or some other platform online. And so I think those are 2 important pieces that I'm going to make sure we put in place. And then I will also probably hold several town halls throughout the year, open to all individuals, move those across the city. Just me. It won't be something for other staff. I won't make them come in after hours and do that. I'll be the one answering the questions. But I think if I can do those 3 things, they will make up for the open office hours and make sure that people continue to have access to me in my office, and we can continue to have the conversations that are important to everybody out there. So look for those. I'll be announcing those over the next month. Last 2 things for me at the moment. My wife and I have for a long time given blood. I just want to encourage everyone to give blood. We were there this past weekend at the blood center. On average, hospitals like to have a 7-day supply. Right now, they have about a 4-day supply. It is a critical need, not just in our region, but across the country. I know it's not awesome to sit in a chair and have someone stick a needle in your arm and, you watch your blood come out of it. But I promise it's not that bad. I've survived it. And so I just want to encourage people right now to give blood. And you're going to hear me talk about that a lot. I think it's a critical thing. And I always tell folks, and I mean it, if you've never given and you're really nervous, give me a call, and I will happily go with you the first time to make sure you can get the process done and not be too nervous and scared about it. And the last thing is, I really want to thank all of our staff who handled the road issue. I know here when the city manager comes up, Jason, and he'll talk a little bit more about that. But our staff did a pretty good job out there clearing the main roads and making sure that people could drive. And we had to make some tough decisions because the nice thing was it was a wonderful powder snow, which means people could drive through it. But that certainly impacts some critical decisions you have to make in real time. So I want to thank everybody who was out there all hours pre-treating and working on it after the fact. But I also want to thank all the other staff who had nothing to do with the road crews, but we had water crews out there who had to do work in these negative degree temperatures. And we had other staff members who were on the streets doing various jobs. So thank you to them, because they couldn't just call in sick. That wasn't an option. So I just want to thank every person who works for the city who was out there in some capacity these last couple of days in sub-zero temperatures, working hard and making sure that the city could still continue to function. So that's what I got at the moment. I'm going to call the city manager up here for his piece. And like I said, when he's done, we are happy to answer whatever questions you've got.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as the mayor stated, a couple of the big initiatives that we have going on here in the very, very near future. The first one being this evening. As the mayor mentioned, we are holding a budget work session, City Council Chambers, 5 o'clock, essentially for the team to start sharing our budget forecast for the coming year for FY 2027. As mentioned previously, we do have a balanced budget for FY 26, but again, the earlier we start on some of the initiatives and efforts that we need to complete going into 2027, the better. And so, as the mayor alluded to, this evening we'll be talking about some future policy considerations, things like our CIP, whether or not we build new fire stations, what streets we're going to be doing, some of the thoughts that the team has as far as how we start putting out more funding for some of the community priorities, such as infrastructure, sidewalks, things of that nature. So as the mayor mentioned, first step of crafting 2027 proposed budget. Come on out. It should be very informative, and I look forward to the discussion. The mayor also talked about our weather efforts. I too want to express my sincere gratitude to the teams, not just the streets crews, but also our fleet crews and team who keep our vehicles operational. I think that the teams did an exceptional job. Obviously, as we have to make some of those decisions, like going to the neighborhoods, we take those things very seriously. I do have Jason Tryon here, Interim Director of Public Works, to answer any specific questions. But at a high level, I'll just tell you that, again, arterial collectors are our priority as far as getting the streets cleared. When we were asked a question as far as, okay, we've hit the 6 inches, why are you not going to the neighborhoods? Well, so a couple things. One, very, very light powdery snow that came in. The first wave, a couple inches, by the time that we got our arterial collector streets cleared, people were starting to pack that down. And so we got another couple inches later on in the day. That there wasn't really a huge accumulation on the streets, and our fear was that, looking from a safety perspective, if we go out and we start treating those streets, things melt down, and then we have ice that night. So we do look at the public safety first and foremost as far as the considerations that we take into account when we make those decisions. That's really it. Mayor did a great job covering a lot of things, and so that's all I have. I'll stand for any questions, or I think we'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Oh, no questions? All right, that was easy.
Was there any treatment put on residential streets?
No, that's not something that we do.
I guess the exception would be, I know we have, if it's an emergency route, which sometimes covers emergency or residential streets, but yeah, if it wasn't one of those emergency type routes, then no.
I guess, how do you define like powdery snow? Like, what does that mean exactly?
Well,
I guess.
Jason, do you want to?
There's a lot of people who ski a lot who could give you a very in-depth explanation, probably.
I'm not a skier, so I won't speak to that, but good morning. So I think there's been a little bit of confusion. Obviously, we started our 24-hour operations on Friday night. We had been pre-treating using our salt brine applications throughout the week last week. We went into our 24-hour plowing on Friday night. On Saturday night, as the snowfall ended and we started to see what the temperatures were going to be like on Sunday, that's when we started putting down more of that chemical treatment. As we said, we typically don't put that down in residential streets until we are at least at 6 inches. We do, however, go out and look at, we know there's areas that are very steep. We know there's areas that have issues with stopping. So we will use some traction control methods in addition to chemical treatment where appropriate. Essentially what we looked at was when we saw the snowfall ending, we were looking at the accumulations and we were saying what is in the best interest of public safety. So as we were going out, the first thing we wanted to do was talk to our operators, find out what are you seeing? Are you seeing people sliding around? Are you seeing a lot of accidents? Are you having to render assistance? Excuse me. And then the second thing that we were doing was looking at the calls that we're getting, and then we actually went out, the supervisors, myself, we started driving those streets, going up and down those steep areas. What we were finding in reference to the powdery snow that we talked about, we were still getting good traction. The snow was very dry, and I was able to drive up and down Quinton Heights Hill. I was able to stop on the hill. What we were assessing at that point was, given that we were going to see temperatures going down into below zero on Sunday night, it's not recommended to use a chemical treatment under that condition. You risk creating a chemical reaction that starts the process of melting that snow, brings out that moisture, and then has an opportunity to refreeze. So as we were discussing, if what we have on the streets now is giving good traction, we're seeing people getting around, we're seeing that the snow is packed down to an area that the roads are still passable, the worst thing we want to do in that situation is apply a treatment that could make the roads less safe. So we talked about, should we go in and start plowing? We were seeing that sidewalks and driveways were already cleared, that plowing was probably not going to get us down to bare pavement, but it was going to throw snow back up onto those sidewalks and driveways that individuals had already cleared. So we had some in-depth discussions. We decided we think it's best for everyone's safety not to go into residentials at this time. We then talked about it again yesterday, so we chose to stand down our 24 operations yesterday afternoon as we felt like the arterials and the collectors were in a good, safe position, and we revisited that discussion and said, let's look at those temperatures again, let's see what's out there, let's see what kind of accidents we're seeing, and our main concern is if those streets are passable, if people are still able to get around, let's not apply a treatment that could make it worse. Let's always think public safety first. So that was how we walked through that decision. We're always going to think public safety. We're always going to think about what do we want to do that's going to best help our residents, not just follow a strict rubric that says, if this happens, we will do this. There's a lot of factors at play, and we wanted to assess all those and make an informed decision. And the first thing that we do in that situation is talk to our operators, tell us what they're experiencing as they're out applying that treatment to the streets.
No, I'll just add two quick things. First of all, I did this as a council person. I did it during this storm as mayor. I got out in my own car and just drove around the city as it was snowing just to see how things were going. And I drove mostly neighborhoods. I didn't just stick to the main roads. I took the long route, if you will, just for my own, so I could go back and either tell staff, hey, I see some spots, or if staff said one thing, I would know, that it was right there because I want to be able to support them. The second thing is staff was very receptive to any calls, whether it was a council person or that they got from folks who said, yeah, we know what you're doing, but this area could use a little attention, and then they got out and checked those too. So we were receptive to concerns of specific areas if someone really thought we needed to get a crew or someone out there to assist to make sure it was a clear roadway.
How do you guys respond to citizens, though, who will say maybe we lost trust because your policy is 6 inches, but then you don't, follow that policy?
I would just say I think Jason explained it in the sense that it's not just a simple factor of saying this is the hard and set rule and we're going to stick to it no matter what. You have to make an assessment that says this is our rule, but in this case, because of the type of snow we had and because of how it came in, we viewed it as much safer for the citizens who were driving in this. They were able to drive through this, that it was more safe leaving it as is than going in and treating it. And when you have temperatures of minus 4, 5, 6, and 7, you're going to create sheets of ice in your effort to fix the problem. So we didn't want to create a problem where there wasn't one. Had this been a different kind of snow, had this been probably more ice that came in, we would have handled it differently. But I like to think that we're going to be flexible in how we assess those situations, as opposed to sticking to a rule that then people say, why'd you do it that way? Look what you created, right? So we will assess those, and we have smart people here, and they really do look at that. It's not just one or two of us sitting up there saying, I don't want to do this. It's what are all the conditions, and how are we going to make sure that we're serving the people of Topeka best.
How do you think this weekend went as far as your guys' snow coverage?
Well, personally, and obviously I'm biased, I'm the mayor, I think we did a pretty good job. I will tell you, I got very few, if any, phone calls, and that's not been the case with other snowstorms. So if you want me to use my own, everyone has my phone number or my email, and they know how to hit me up on social media, and I will tell you that I got very few complaints or concerns, with the exception of maybe, hey, could you check out this area? And I can't say that's the same for past snowstorms that we've had over my 6 years as a council person. So if I use that as a gauge, I think we did a pretty good job. But are we perfect? Of course not. Are we always asking ourselves after these situations, could we have done better, or could we have done something? Of course we are. That's what we're supposed to do. But just based on the amount of calls or feedback I've gotten so far, it's been primarily positive.
Just to acknowledge your question about trust, I've had a lot of conversations with constituents over the past couple of days, and I do want to acknowledge that there is a trust concern. And what I want to make sure we're communicating to our residents is that we are going to do what we think is in your best interest and what is safe. We're going to make informed decisions based on the expertise of the people that are out there treating the snow. We're going to look at the forecasts, and we're going to try to make the best decision we can. But I do acknowledge that there is a lack of trust. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I was out checking the roads on Sunday afternoon, and as soon as I walked in the door, she was standing there and said, "How are the roads?" So I understand. I'm getting it inside my own house. There's a lack of trust, and we need to build that trust back up. And we're committed to doing that, and we're going to do that by making the safest decision possible.
Do you think you guys would change the policy at all to kind of make it more of a blanket thing, or would you guys change it at all?
Well, I think we review it every time. I also remind folks, I hear a lot of feedback a lot of times about, our policy versus some of our surrounding cities. And I will say, we have 1,600 plus miles of road in this city. Some of our surrounding cities, Lawrence has less than 900. Manhattan has 300. Shawnee County has just around 300. I think Emporia is, I don't want to make that up. I just looked at that. But my point is, so our policy is also based on our capacity, how many trucks we have, what our staffing capacity is, what we think is in the best interest of the community for safety. So yes, I think it's always something that's under review when you have these storms, but it's also based on the fact of the size of our city, our population, and the miles of road that we have to cover to actually get it done. We could go buy more plows. That's not going to be cheap, and I'm happy to have that conversation with the community and add more staff. I mean, if that's something people want us to do, we can talk about that. So I think it's something we will always continually review. I will say for the most part, the policy we have in place has served us pretty well. But yeah, we'll always take a look at that and willing to hear feedback from citizens.
The plan was to start making the treatment for the roads in-house. How has that process been given this most recent storm?
I would say it's working very well. So that's a significant cost savings to us that we're able to manufacture that pre-treatment brine ourselves. And we were using that pre-treatment all throughout last week. So that's a scenario where we can do something proactive before the accumulation starts. It's going to assist in our efforts later. So I think that's been very successful.
Can you just review, what is actually in that brine?
So the exact chemical composition, it's basically a mixture of salt and water. So it's a process of taking that chloride component, putting it in there, and mixing it up with the salt. It's intended to be used prior to the snowfall accumulation. The key factor is it's going to break that bond between the snow and the ice and the roadway surface, so that when you come in later with the plow or other treatment, you're able to move that off the pavement surface more easily. And it's essentially just a mixture of salt and water.
Weather like this creates lots of potholes. However, I also know that hot treatment is not easily accessible around this time of year. Can you talk about how you will address road repairs during this time?
So obviously that's something that we're going to move into as soon as we get the snow cleared. As you said, you cannot use a hot mix asphalt product this time of year because it's not available. So we do have some patch treatments that will work. They are not a permanent solution by any means, but they do keep that road drivable until we can get a more permanent patch in place. And as we transition out of snow, we'll be out there assessing those roads. We invite the public, if you see potholes or you see areas of concern, put in a See-Click-Fix ticket, call us and notify us so that we know what the hotspot areas are that we need to be addressing first. But as we move out of removing snow and those road surfaces become clear, we'll move into pothole patching almost immediately.
Yes. Anything else? Now we can bring up our next person. If you think of anything else before we're done, feel free to ask it. All right. See what you want to introduce? All right. Actually, I didn't know who was coming. Oh, okay. Lieutenant Kelvin Johnson's going to come up here and speak to you about, I believe, our Citizens Academy. Or he's going to say, no, that's not why I'm here, Mayor. You got that one wrong. Well, I guess we're about to find out.
You are correct. You are correct. Good morning, and thanks for having me. I'm here today to invite our community to apply for the Topeka Police Department Citizens Academy. This coming academy will be our 53rd Citizens Academy and our 30th year of offering this program. And the intent of this class is to allow our public to build understanding, trust, meaningful community partnerships, and to have a better understanding of what happens behind the badge. How do we go about doing our daily jobs? And so the class itself will start on March 5th, Thursday night. It'll run for 13 weeks, ending on May 28th. Each evening will run 6 to 9 p.m. and will consist of 3 separate classes from different elements of the department. In addition to these 13 weeks on Thursday nights, we also provide 2 fun days on Saturdays, one of which will be a tour and going through the Department of Corrections, and the other will be in-house with us, and it'll be use of force decision making and things of that, seeing the canines and things associated with car stops and every other element of that we can bring the public in and have them participate in. And so we always get a lot of feedback. The public always has a better understanding of what are we going through, our decision making and things of that nature. Applications are being accepted through February 27th. Again, that's a short turnaround for the March 5th class. And we take roughly 30 people per class. And so we would encourage you to get your applications in quickly so we can get those reviewed and get our individuals selected. We do have online applications, and we can get that linked to you later. And if anybody is interested, I also have the actual agenda for the entire session, so we can allow you to see which classes are being offered to hopefully, again, bring in some more interest from the public to attend. So is there any questions or anything I can answer to help get the word out? All right. This is easy enough.
I'm a graduate of that program. And then I served, they have a Citizens Ambassador, Academy ambassadors that help support that program and others with the department. I served on their board for several years. What I appreciate about our program is you're going to go there, you're going to learn a lot about the department, but they're also going to answer your questions, even if they're tough questions. They don't shy away from that. They're not there to sugarcoat those tough conversations and just move on. And I think anyone you've talked to who's gone through that program has very much appreciated our department's openness and honesty in those conversations and through that program. I know I did. I learned a lot more through that. For instance, I learned my 12-year-old colorblind son can never be on the bomb squad because we don't want colorblind people on the bomb squad, believe it or not. So I did have to go home and tell him, I know they say you can be anything in life, but you can't be on the bomb squad, kid. So I had to crush that dream of his. But I really appreciate the program for the way they've structured it. And so I would encourage anyone who's really interested in the department and even has questions about the department and how things really work to take that, because it shows you every little thing we do from every piece of the department. So I would encourage people to sign up for that. Last thing I want to do at these press conferences, as I said, is highlight something that's going on in our community, give our community partners an opportunity to put something in front of you, because again, while we are the city of Topeka, this city really is made up of our citizens and our organizations and this community itself, and I think it's critical we continue to have those conversations about our partnerships within the community. So with that, I want to bring Brett Martin from the United Way up here to talk to you for a minute.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to share today in your inaugural press conference. I'm Brett Martin with United Way of Kaw Valley, and I serve on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Review Committee, a committee that was formed at the end of the first quarter of last year and has been working for the 3 quarters of 2025 and into 2026, developing a request for proposal for those who wish to develop or build affordable housing in our community. I can say over the last several months that my colleagues who are a part of that Affordable Housing Trust Fund Review Committee have taken careful steps to ensure that we are clear in our RFP and that we are making it as applicant friendly as possible, while at the same time ensuring that we're asking the questions we need in order to make the most informed decisions with the dollars that are in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So just a couple of dates that the community can keep in mind. First is February 2nd. That's the day that the request for proposal for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Review Committee goes live. That's February 2nd. There will be 2 meetings for applicants who are interested and wanting to know more about that opportunity. Those are February 19th and March 12th. They're from 10 to noon, and city staff will be there to provide information regarding that request for proposal. It opens on February 2nd. It closes on March 31st. And then we as a review committee will do the work to review and score those and then make those decisions that will then be sent to city staff and then to the council for their approval. We're excited about the opportunity to look at affordable housing across the community and to make sure that we are getting the best applicants to build and potentially renovate properties here in Topeka to ensure that we've got more affordable housing for those who need it in the city of Topeka. So thank you. Any questions anyone might have?
Why has it taken this long?
Great question. I anticipated that question, so I'm glad you asked it. We have gotten together over the last several months and wanted to ensure that we are putting our best foot forward. We have a cross-sector committee, individuals who have lots of expertise in a lot of different areas. And when we first came together, it took a little bit of talking to one another to figure out where the expertise rested and who we needed to listen to on what issues. That said, I will say one of the reasons why it's taken so long is because we have gone through the application over and over and over again to really ensure that it is user-friendly. And so we've asked questions about ensuring that we're not asking a question twice, that we're clear about our wording, for an individual who comes in as a skilled developer and someone who comes in, maybe this is the first time that they're doing this type of work. So we've tried to cast our net wide and ensure that we're putting together the most accessible application, while at the same time ensuring that we have the questions answered to make the best decisions with those dollars. So that's why it's taken so long, but we're really proud of the product we've put forward.
There's a second piece to that, which has nothing to do with their work. It's how long it took the council to get things moving forward. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund ordinance was passed a year before I got on the council, which was 6 years ago. It then sort of sat there for a year and a half-ish, and I kept saying, why aren't we using this Affordable Housing Trust Fund? And then I spent about 2 years working with staff and community partners to put the first $1 million into that. But that took several years, and we still do not have an ongoing way to fund that fund, but we're working on that. That is one of my priorities because I think that's a critical component to us building more housing in this community. But as part of that process, we had to get the first $1 million in, and then it took us another year to make some changes to the ordinance because by this time it was already 5 years old and we needed to update it, and we needed to make sure that we brought a committee in that was of citizens of the community. So they really only got started working last year because that's how long it took the council to kind of get things moving forward. And so I've been very proud. That's one of my initial I'm very proud of, that I was able to help kickstart and get us here, even though my frustrations are that it's taken so long. But I want everyone to know that they are working at a pretty fast pace and a pretty good pace now that they're actually empowered to do the work and together as a community. So I'm very glad they're moving forward. And now my job as the policymaker is to find out how we get some ongoing funds into that so that they have more beyond that first $1 million.
All right.
Anything else? If not, I mean, I'm not going anywhere. You can always ask questions later, but this will conclude the press conference unless there's any final questions. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here, and see you next month.